How many of you have problems? Raise your hand if you have a problem. I have problems. We all have problems. That is part of the experience we have on this earth. We all have struggles and challenges, things that are hard, things that are difficult, things that we don't want to deal with, issues that we're dealing with. We all have them. So how do you solve them? How do you solve your problems? I'm going to give you a 6-step process that will work every single time to help you get to a better and better place. And every time you go through this process, it will actually get you to a higher and higher level playing field for your life. So I'm really excited about this because it really can change everything for you. So the first step is to define the problem. You have to be able to define the problem or you're not going to know exactly what it is. You might blame it on someone else. If you're blaming something on someone else, that's not the real problem. Because and you'll never be able to fix it if you don't start with the actual core of the problem. So you've got to be able to define it, figure out what it is. And what's interesting is even that first step, as you start to define the problem, you're going to start to figure out ways that you're either avoiding it or you're kind of hiding or you are telling yourself a story that it's something else. You have to be honest and define the actual problem. Once you do that, now you can, you don't necessarily have to do the next one in this order, but I want you to define your goal. Because you can define your goal first and then define the problem, but figure out these 2 definitions first before you move on to the next part. When you define your goal, it needs to be specific. I want you to be able to measure it. I want it to be something that you can, it's either a number or it's a time, there's a deadline, there's something very specific that you can say, yes, I achieved that goal. If you say, I'm trying to be kinder, or I'm trying to make my business more successful, you can't really measure that. It's like, okay, so how, are you more successful yet? How much more successful? What exactly does success mean? Make sure you define the goal very clearly. Once you've defined the problem and you define your goal, now you are in a really good place because you are sitting in a place where you get to see, you know where you're going and you already know what's not working. You know the very specific problem and now you can start taking action. So the next 2 things, you're going to identify the cause of the problem and the steps that led to it. So number 3, identify the cause of the problem. What's really causing it? Again, are you trying to blame it on someone else? Is it because maybe, let's say that I have, my challenge is that people tend to treat me like I'm not worth very much. They treat me like I don't have a lot of value. They interrupt me a lot. They disregard what I have to say. They act like it's a stupid idea. If this is how I'm treated all the time, then I've defined the problem. Now, what's my goal? My goal might be, I don't want to be around people who act that way, or I don't want to be in a situation where I am treated that way, where I am responded to in that way. So now I need to identify the cause. What's the cause? The cause is I am around people. One of the causes is I'm around people who respond to me that way. But the real cause is I'm allowing it. I'm allowing that to happen. I keep putting myself in those situations. I keep being around those people. Now think about how this would apply to your business. If I'm working in my business and I've got employees that are supposed to be doing certain things and we're not reaching our goals, things are not happening the way I want them to happen, we're not seeing that success. Let's use social media as an example. If my social media people are, they're not posting when I've asked them to post, we're not getting the results, I'm losing followers, all of these things are happening, now I've got to look at what is the cause of the problem. Is the cause really my employees? Well, it's because my employees don't do what they're supposed to do. Well, if I do that, now I'm stuck because there's nothing I can do and the problem's going to stay. So I'm not going to be able to solve the problem. That's why it's super important that you take responsibility. You identify the cause of the problem. If the cause is, okay, my employees aren't trained well enough, or the cause might be that my employees aren't really willing to do what I'm asking them to do, I've got to get to the core and find out what the cause is. The cause is when we post at a time when no one is online. We have our automatic post set to the middle of the night, so we're getting way less response. Figure out what the cause of the problem is. Let's go back to the situation where you're being treated poorly by friends, family, whoever it is that you are around. Part of the cause of the problem is you're allowing yourself to be in that situation. Now identify the steps that led to it. Well, my mom called and I told her I wasn't going to come because I'm trying to be strong. And then she made me feel guilty. Now look what we're doing. We're already blaming. We're blaming mom because she made us feel a certain way, which is not true. She didn't make you feel anyway, but you chose to take on that guilt that mom is trying to put on you, and then you decided to take an action based on that. Oh, I better go. I'm going to have to go. That's what's happening. Those are the steps that led up to it. So now, after those 4 steps, now you need to develop a couple of things. The first one is develop the plan. You need to develop the plan that will stop you from getting in that situation. Okay, the next time my mom calls, I know she tends to do this when she calls. So when she calls, I'm going to stick to my guns and say, Mom, I am not coming. Now, you can either say, no, I am not coming because this happens and I'm sick and tired of all that. Okay, you can either respond like that, or, which a lot of times that's why we don't respond healthy, because we don't say what needs to be said because we don't know how to say it in a way that doesn't sound mean and we don't want to be a bad person. But the reality is, if now I say to mom, oh, Mom, that sounds like so much fun, but I am not going to be able to make it. And so I hope you guys have a great time. Now, guess what? Mom is not going to like it if she tends to be the person who wants to try to put the guilt on you. And I have a friend who this happens to her all the time. And so then she keeps trying to go because she wants to try and be a good person, and it's her mom. And so she goes, and then she's treated disrespectfully every single time. Now, what if she developed a plan, and the plan was this: I choose not to be around people who treat me that way. And these are the people who treat me this way, so I'm going to choose not to be around them. I can send them a Christmas present, but I'm not going to go to the Christmas family party, or whatever that looks like. It can be a very hard thing to do, but just remember, it does not need to be done unkindly. It can be done kindly and lovingly, but firmly, very firm. And let me tell you this is not firm. Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. I know you want me to come, but I just can't come. You do that, they're going to keep trying to push it and push it and push it because they know you're not really strong about it. But if you will respond by saying, Mom, I love you, but I'm not going to come. What? And she, the whole guilt thing, you say, Mom, I love you and I need to go, but whatever. You call it like it is, and you be confident and you say what needs to be said. That's what you need to do. So develop the plan of what you are going to do. And then the 6th one is develop the process. Because the plan is, okay, I'm going to tell my mom that I am not going to come and I'm going to be strong. That's the plan. But that's not the process. The process are the steps that are going to happen. And there might be 3 things that my mom is going to say this, and then I will tell her I'm not coming, and then she will say this, and then I will respond this way, and it won't work, and she'll then she'll do the 3rd thing she always does, and at the end I give up. Fine, I'm coming. Okay? So you have to have a process. You can't just say I've got a plan. Okay, I'm going to tell her no, but if you don't know exactly what you're going to say and exactly how you're going to handle it, then you're not going to see the results happen the way you want at the end of that process. Let's go back to the business example. You have this business example, they're not posting the way that I want, and now all of a sudden, I am going to identify the steps that led to the problem. I figured out the cause. The cause is the bottom line is we're not posting what I want posted. And so we're not getting the results I want. What's the cause? The cause is the posts aren't getting done, deadlines aren't being met, whatever you figure out what that cause is. Now, number 4, we're going to identify the steps that led to it. Okay, this person got sick, and when that person got sick, it wasn't done because nobody was assigned to take over that responsibility when they get sick. So as I start to identify the steps that led to it, now I can go to number 5. I can develop a plan. Oh, now we know what the problem is. We know what caused it. We know the steps that led to it. So now I can go, okay, let's develop a plan that takes care of those issues so that when those things happen, guess what? We're not going to run into a problem. And then number 6, we're going to develop the process. We're not just going to say, okay, we need to post. We need to post regularly. We need to be posting every Tuesday and Thursday. And when somebody's sick, you need to pass it off to XYZ. You can pass it off to someone else. Well, that's not final enough. That isn't decided enough. It doesn't give us enough information and enough details. Think about it like this. It needs to be enough information in the process that there's no misunderstanding. It's very clear. And if you walked through that process, if you had a 4-step process, for how social media needs to be done, or a 10-step process, go through that process with your employees and see if there's any way, even make it a game. See if you can figure out a way to not do what we're trying to accomplish here. You end up not posting, or you end up not hitting a deadline, but you're still following all the rules. You have to do everything it says in here, but see if you can find a way to get around it while still doing exactly what this says. Because if you will do that, guess what will happen? They'll figure out ways to get around it. You'll find loopholes, which will tell you exactly what information is missing, and it will allow you to put that information in so that now you're ready to go. And now you've got a more solid plan. And the really cool thing about this, how to solve problems, is once you do it once, and you get to a more successful stage of that particular thing that you've been working on. Now, when you start to notice problems again, or things that aren't quite where you want them to be, guess what? Now you just move to the next thing. You go through the process again, and you get to an even higher level on the playing field. So I'll just review those 6. Number 1, define the problem. Number 2, define the goals. Number 3, identify the cause of the problem. Number 4, identify the steps that led to it. Number 5, develop the plan. And number 6, develop the process that will make sure the plan actually happens. Okay, you got this. And remember, don't just think different, be different.